And let's continue with the 12th chapter of The Darkangel by Meredith and Pierce. Ariel has just left the Durrow's cave with the Star Horse's hoof full of the mixture she is supposed to give the Icarus. Ariel stood in the spinning room amid the wraiths. She knew the sun was nearly down. Her haste to bathe her body in the warm, bright water of the cave, to comb her now electrum-pale hair, to wind about her the yards and yards of sari into a bridal gown, but among the wraiths she stood now, attired as the vampire's bride. She said, "The time has come. I am going to slay the Darkangel now and rescue your souls." For all the bravery of the words, she could not quite keep the tremor from her voice. "Why do you go?" one of the wraiths said, "attired as a bride?" Their minds had slowly come back to them, trace by trace, over the last month. "Because he means to take me as his bride," said Ariel. The wraiths moaned and muttered. "So this is how he punishes you for running away!" A shaky laugh escaped Ariel. She let it go, as much to relieve her tension as to express her irony. "No, he thinks to honor me." "As he has honored us!" they shrieked. "He has honored us to death!" "Hush, hush!" cried Ariel. "I will not let him kill me. I have the chalice that will lay him low, and the blade to breach his heart." The wraiths muttered dolefully. "We fear for you," they said. "Let us come with you. We are so thin. We may hide anywhere, in the curtains, in the bedclothes, with never a wrinkle. We are not strong, but we are horrible to look at. He pretends only contempt for us, but we know we frighten him." The wasted women nodded eagerly, then consulted among themselves. "You should falter," one of them said to Ariel. "If you should falter," one of them said to Ariel, "or if things should run amiss, we might be of use to you." She started to protest and would have bid them stay, save that they wept and wailed and clung to her so. Ariel knew they would not let her go until she agreed. Reluctantly she resigned herself, and despite herself she was glad of companions. Anyone to accompany her now. She nodded. "Follow me, then," she bade the wraiths, as their delighted laughter sounded like sand scritching softly over a dry stone floor. The nearest wraith took hold, in her frail, mummy-like hands, of the hem of Ariel's garment. The next wraith took hold of her sister's hem, and those behind did the same, until they formed a train. Seizing the chalice firmly in both hands, Ariel led them out of their chamber and into the hall. The white, soft, setting glare of Solstar shone long veils through the windows. The broad interstices of shade in between were empty black. Passing now from light to dark to light again, Ariel found herself sweating and shivering by turns. She tried to hold the bright bowl steady. Glancing back over her shoulder, she eyed the crumpled train of wraiths. They were so bent and fragile now, and most of them so nearly blind, they would have lost their way at once in the rambling corridors without her guidance. So thin were they seemed translucent. Ariel could scarcely see them in the waning brightness, lost them completely in the velvet shadows. Their progress seemed maddeningly slow. Solstar was already half sunk away. Ariel balanced the brimming cup and urged the feeble wraiths forward. They made what haste they could. At last they reached the vampire's quarters, set at the end of the long empty hall. Ariel felt her impatience evaporating into dread. Slowly she led the wraiths up the long, straight stair to the small, ornately fashioned door. It stood fast shut. She had never seen it open, but when she lifted the latch it gave inward, swung open. Ariel hesitated a moment and led the wraiths inside. The outer chambers were spacious, and to her great surprise, after living so long in the vast, deserted keep, fully furnished with stools and tables, cushions, curtains, cabinets, and shelves, she and the wraiths passed through, or beside, sitting rooms, servants' quarters, a tiled bath, a study. Ariel found herself admiring the mosaic inlay of a subtle-hued soapstone and pillars of smooth-colored marble. They came to the suite's inner chamber last, and it seemed very small in comparison. Long curtains fell beside columns partitioning the room proper from the broad outside terrace. The bed was small, but carved of some dark, rare wood and richly canopied. At the foot of the bed lay a chest, such as one might store clothes or linens in, but as she drew near to it, Ariel saw it must be a toy chest, for on its inlaid lid rested two playthings only a princeling might have. A dragon carved of ivory with claws of black onyx, and a rag doll of costly satins and velvets sewn with pearls. As she set the chalice down beside the playthings on the chest, it occurred to Ariel that this must have been a child's room before the Darkangel came. It puzzled her that nothing in the room had been disturbed, nothing taken by the queen and her people when they had removed to Easternice. The dusk-lit room went suddenly dark. Ariel started, turned, realizing, even as she did so, that it was only Solstar having set. She went to turn up the oil lamps that burned low in niches in the walls. The wraiths, milling about the room, turned their blind eyes from the light. As Ariel brightened the final lamp, one of the wasted women halted. "He is coming," hissed the wraith. The others stopped. Ariel stopped. She dropped her hand from the lamp, padded swiftly to the center of the room. She stood, arms folded across her breast, listening. The silence of the great deserted keep strained against her ears. Then, above the soft hissing of the lamp wicks burning, she caught sound of something uneven, footfalls moving across the great hall outside, the rustle of many wings. "Quick!" Ariel gestured to the wraiths, her voice a tight whisper, lest he hear. "Hide yourselves!" The starved women melted into the shadows, and the dim places of the room became motionless, invisible. Ariel lifted the horse's hoof and held it cupped in her hands. The footsteps drew nearer across the hall. She heard the Darkangel ascending the long, straight stair, crossing through the outer chambers. Ariel tried to steady her trembling hands. She stood facing the doorway. The soft white lamplight played pale shadows across the walls. The vampire's halt step stalked nearer, nearer. Ariel closed her eyes and held her breath. The footfalls ceased. Ariel opened her eyes. The Icarus stood in the doorway before her. His deep black pinions, save for one, fell like a mantle from his shoulders. His colorless eyes looked her up and down. Once. "Well, wife," he said. The long rents of his face and shoulder gaped. "You are very beautiful, almost worthy of me." Ariel drew a long, shuddering breath at the sight of him. The vampire smiled. "You tremble. Are you cold? Soon you will not mind the cold." He left the doorway and came toward her. Ariel clutched the silver hoof. "What is that?" he said. Ariel glanced at the vessel in her hand. She spoke and tried to keep her voice steady. "It is the custom of my people to drink a bridal cup." He laughed. "A quaint custom. I had not heard of it." He settled back, arms folded, eyeing the cup in her hands. "But we are not among your people now." Ariel gazed at him, felt her blood quicken. "But," she stammered, "you must drink." "And why is that?" the vampire inquired. Fear welled up to drown her thoughts. She searched desperately for some persuasion, felt the blade of the hidden dagger burning upon her breast. "It would please me," she began, "for you to drink." The Icarus's arms unfolded. His hands went to his hips. "And why should I suffer to do anything at all that pleases you?" he scoffed, sharp-edged annoyance creeping into his voice. "I am the master here." A notion surfaced. Ariel let out her breath. Her blood returned. A lump of relief rose in her throat. She schooled her voice to be forceful and clear. "If you do not drink, husband-to-be, we will not be truly wed. Then you will not have 14 brides, but only 12 and 1. The vampire snorted, pursed his lips in scorn. "Come, it is a small concession," she pressed. "Why quibble?" The Icarus dropped his hands from his lips suddenly and laughed a dark and irritated laugh. "Ah, ha, 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 ha. Well, very well," he snapped. Let us drink, wench. Since you are so adamant, I will have my own way in all things soon enough." He held out his hand. "Give me the cup." But Ariel had already raised the vessel to her own lips. The dram smelled faintly of almond milk. She sipped. The drink was warmer than liquor and cooler than mint. The taste, strong and bittersweet, like cornflowers, but much deeper. Its warmth spread through her body. She felt suddenly stronger, more awake, more alive. The lamps about the chamber seemed to burn brighter against the dark. She held out the hoof of the star horse to the Icarus. He took it in his hand and laughed again. "Ha ha ha! A curious vessel, he remarked, frowning. It reminds me of... Ariel felt the veins constrict. She must say something lest he grow weary. We borrowed the tradition from the plains, the vampire shrugged, ignoring her. I cannot think what... He finished, raised the silver hoof to his lips, and downed its contents in a draught. Ariel watched him, and dared not breathe. He smiled at her, and laid the cup aside. Now we are wed, he said. What was the dram? Wine of some tree you found fruiting in the garden? Ariel shook her head. Nothing fruits in your garden. Oh, he said, not greatly interested. His eyes devoured her. What was it, then? I don't know, said Ariel, unease, crouched between her shoulder blades. Why did he not fall? Did he not feel the liquor's heat? She had felt its burning warmth at once. Still felt it. Ariel fell back a step as the Darkangel advanced. He stopped, seemingly amused at her retreat. What do you mean? He asked, toying with the leaden vials at his throat. Ariel eyed his lean white fingers, imagined their strength, fingers that snapped bats' bones and tore out lizards' tongues, throttled his brides to death that he might drink of their blood, steal away their